Right guys, I've got another little job to do here on my Mark 7 Transit. I've got a broken leaf spring on the back, so I'll show you what I've got to do. My mate offered to sandblast and powder coat my wheels for me, just to save me a job. So they look like this, really rough. And when I took the rear wheel off and jacked it up, the leaf spring snapped. It were obviously on its last legs. You could see where it were rusted and already broken, and then the final bit, the clean bits, where it snapped off. So 150 quid later, new leaf spring to go on. So I've got back end jacked up. I've got it on axle stands just underneath where the damper mounts, so I can move the axle up and down. But I'm gonna have to jack it up some more so I can get my impact wrench between the ground and onto the bottom of the U-bolts, because they're really fine threads, and if I do this just with a wrench, it's going to take me forever. So I want to use my impact gun. So I'm just going to blather these up in some diesel and just hope some of it penetrates down to get these U-bolts out, because my spring didn't come with replacement U-bolts. I have to buy them separately, so I'll try and save these ones if I can. So there you go, blathered everything in diesel. Hopefully just try and help me get them undone. And then while that's soaking, I think I'll be able to just jack this side of the axle up a bit, just enough to get me impact wrench between the ground and the bottom of the U-bolts. So first of all, I'm going to clean up the threads on the bottom of the U-joints and the other mounting bolts with this die grinder with a wire wheel on end. Just make sure you use goggles, because these fire wires off at your face. I don't know if you can see how crusty that bolt is, but sometimes when you leave all the rust on, when your nut starts to go over it, it just gets tighter and tighter until you just can't get it off any further. So that's why I'm cleaning them up a bit. Hopefully you can see how nice and clean that thread is now. Should just help that. I mean, I don't think these big nuts will have a problem coming off anyway, but in the past when I've tried to get nuts over rust, they just get tighter and tighter, and you end up ruining the thread on the nut. So that should come off now. So I'll clean up the other threads on the U-bolts and the other side, and then have a go getting them off. So I've got the body of the van on axle stands, and I've just jacked this side of the axle up just so I can get in to the U-bolt nuts with my impact gun. So I'll try and whip those nuts off first, and then before I undo these mounts, I'll lower the jack down and take it out so there's no tension on the leaf spring. So if I undo these now, they'll just you know, ping one way or other, and it's a bit dangerous. So I'll do these first, and then I'll take the jack out and just let the axle just relax where it sits. These nuts on these U-bolts are well tight. I'm going to try a bit of heat on them, and then in the end I might end up cutting them off. We'll see. A bit of heat with blowtorch did the trick. It came off nice and easy then. There, look. But I'm probably going to need 4 new nuts for the U-bolts, because I think the nylon nuts, and it'll have melted all the nylon out of them. So I'll get some of them before I put it back on. Just other side to get off, so I'll put some heat on that now. There, both U-bolts are off. If you're going to do this at home, I recommend just getting some new U-bolts and just putting grinder to them and just cut them off. Unless you've got a powerful impact gun, it's not worth the hassle. And then there's just this little piece that goes over the top of the spring that holds the U-bolts in place. Just pull that out at way. There's a little plate there as well. And then there's just the front and rear mounts to undo. So I'll drop this jack down now and just let the axle just relax, and then the spring's not under like preload. There you can see I've taken jack out. And there's a gap where the spring is sat on now on the axle. So the axle's not putting any tension on the spring. And the spring's fallen off there anyway, because that's where it's snapped. So I'll take this mounting bolt out now, and same on the other side, and try and lift this leaf spring out of the way. Old one's off, it weren't too bad. I'll just give everywhere a bit of a clean up now, and then I'll get the new spring on. everything's cleaned up, so stick new spring on now. The new spring has a bigger bush at one end. The big bush end goes to the front, and the little bush with the smaller diameter bolt goes to the back. The leaf spring's roughly in position. This little plate goes on top of the spring there. And just put it all back as it came off. This is the handbrake cable bracket on there, and that just goes back down onto the spring there. And now I'll just put the front and rear bolts through. I'm just struggling to film it because it's a bit of an awkward position. Now the front and rear bolts are in and the spring's held on by the bolts. I'm just going to jack this axle back up at this end just to close this gap so I can get the U-bolts back in. I've still got the nuts to put on the end bolts. There's just a little locating peg on the bottom of the spring, and you need to just wriggle the axle and make sure it just drops in. Which is easier said than done. Yeah, that looks like it's in. So I'll get those U-bolts on now. Let's get a bit of copper slip on these just to help them nuts go on a bit easier. I'll just jack this axle up enough just so I can get underneath again with me impact wrench, impact driver, whatever. The spring's nice and tight down onto axle there. All U-bolt nuts are all nice and tight. I didn't bother putting new nuts on. They're still nice and tight on the threads, so they'll do. I don't know what torque they're meant to be, but I've rattled them up with gun really tight, so they're not going to go anywhere. Just this, I think it's an ABS wire, just to click back in. So now, yeah, that's everything under here. Just the front and rear mounting nuts to put on now. And that's it. New leaf spring fitted. Nice and easy job. Hardest bit's getting nuts off the U-bolts, but if you're going to do it, just get some new U-bolts and cut them off with grinder. It'll be a lot easier and quicker. If you don't have an impact wrench, you're going to struggle getting them nuts off. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you found this useful. Sorry about the rushed video, but I've been working in rain all week and it's the weekend now and I want a break, so Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next video.